Our next presenter, speaking of which, is Maggie Mullen. She's a fifth-generation Wyomingite born and raised right here in Casper. You might recognize her voice as a reporter and host on Wyoming Public Radio. Maggie enjoys writing, cooking, swimming in rivers and lakes, and most any dog, she says. Here with no voice for radio, give it up for Casper's own and my own colleague, Maggie Mullen.
Okay. So to begin, I'd like to offer a little bit of unsolicited advice, and that is do not read the comment section. If there's one thing that you take away from what I have to say tonight, let that be it. However, sometimes that can't be avoided. Sometimes the comment section comes to you like when it shows up in your mailbox at work. This is the very first piece of what I call fan mail that I got as a WPR reporter. The anonymous letter is first written in red crayon, then finished in red pen. Among its demands is this: why not pronounce and deliver in a natural, conversational way rather than in an affected, contrived, self-conscious radio personality way? This was a rite of passage. For every person that works in broadcast journalism or podcasting, there's at least one listener who cannot stand the way they talk. For every woman that works in broadcast journalism or podcasting, there are at least 5 more of those listeners. In the 1980s and 90s, women were criticized for what is sometimes called uptalk. It's a kind of high lilt at the end of the sentence that makes even statements sound like questions. Now, in 2017, the problem is called vocal fry. It's that creaky, drawn-out sound at the end of a word. Many say vocal fry developed when the Kardashians became famous. Many others say it was when women began to falsely lower their voices to, you guessed it, combat uptalk, or other criticisms having to do with sounding childish, not authoritative enough, or simply being too high-pitched. Some of the usual advice radio newbies get when they start speaking into the mic includes standing up, that will allow for full lung capacity, or using your hands, which will help you find a natural rhythm and the right emphasis. Even drinking some bourbon can help if you want to add a certain richness to your voice. These recommendations reveal that we do have some measure of control over the way we sound, that we can fine-tune and make the right adjustments. But for women, as well as really anyone with a voice that isn't white and or male, the margin of error is that much thinner and sometimes impossible to get right. For every wrong-voiced woman, the problem usually has to do with excess. The voice is too something. It's too squeaky, too juvenile, too nasal, too loud, too soft. As women, we're left to believe if only we could get the right voice, we can more easily unlock opportunities. As a result, career and voice coaches advise women to tweak their voice. They say be more direct, less differential. Use just less in your emails and say like fewer times in conversations. But linguist Robin Lakoff says these very words are actually signs of highly evolved communication. When we use words like so, I guess, like, actually, and I mean, we are sending signals to the listener to help them figure out what's new, what's key, what's interesting, what's strange, what's funny. We're connecting with them. In radio, you're told to imagine you're speaking to one person. And more or less, this is true. We are plugged into your earphones or in the room with you while you're washing dishes. Maybe we're in the car with you after a long day at work. These are special, intimate places. And how much the listener hears relies on how much they trust the person speaking. So who do we trust? I want to take a quick break from radio and briefly talk about print journalism to help answer this question. Last December, a print magazine published an opinion article by their weekend editor. Its title, Donald Trump is Gaslighting America. Within weeks, it was viewed 1.2 million times. So who do you think published this piece of writing? The Atlantic, Harper's, the New York Times? Actually, it was Teen Vogue, and the reporter was Lauren DeCaw. This surprised a lot of people, including NPR's All Things Considered, David Folkenflik, who said the essay signaled a shift. The magazine was changing its emphasis toward more political and social engagement. So why isn't Teen Vogue where you would expect to get political news? It's completely fair to say that the magazine is not known for politics, but it's done a lot of growing up. In the last year, its editors have moved the magazine to be more aggressive in covering feminism, identity, as well as activism. In a recent interview on The Daily Show with Trevor Noah, 2 of the magazine's editors said fashion and politics, they're not mutually exclusive. Editor Philip Picardi said, to tell a teenager she should stick to lip gloss when she's directly impacted by policies affecting her lifestyle and the lifestyle of those around her is frankly irresponsible. And this is true, that fashion and politics are not mutually exclusive. Just as sounding a certain way on the radio and being informed or credible or the right person for the job are not mutually exclusive. You can sound too girly to be in broadcast journalism only if that is a quality that makes you unfit for reading the news. Distrust of women's voices reflects a deeper cultural anxiety about whether they have a right to speak at all and whether or not we should listen or take them seriously. This is even more true for those women with other identities that make them vulnerable, like trans women, women of color, and poor women. I haven't quite found my sweet spot when it comes to speaking on the air. I haven't had that moment where I hear myself and realize this is the sound of who I am on the radio. But if On the Media's Brooke Gladstone is right, that will happen when I'm 60 years old. Writer Jordan Kisner says, the comfort and the danger in having a voice is that others can know you by it. And not simply in the sense of recognition, that they could pick you out of a lineup by the sound of your voice. Instead, through the sound of your voice alone, they can learn something essential about who you are. I hope while I work to find my sweet spot, I can produce content that lets my listeners know me. Thank you.